Hello and welcome to Live from America podcast. This is Hatem, and joining me all the way from Amman, Jordan, is Rana Nejem. Hello, Rana.
Hi, Hatem. Lovely
Good
to
to
be
have you.
here.
Rana is an author and social culture intelligence coach. She started her career as a broadcast journalist with Jordan Television. After working for CNN at the first Gulf War, she moved to the royal court where she was responsible for His Majesty's, the late King Hassan's International Media Department for about 2 years. And then she moved into the field of communication and public relation, leading the public diplomacy and communication work of the British Embassy for Amman in 18 years. And she wrote an incredible book. It's titled When in the Arab World, An Insider Guide to Living and Working with the Arab Culture. And she's here tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's great to have me here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's start first with, social intelligence or the art of social intelligence. First thing, what is social intelligence? Because
So,
we use
so
these words like somebody like me, and I have no idea what it means. But
yeah, you've got the emotional intelligence, you've got the cultural intelligence,
yeah.
intercultural intelligence, and now the social intelligence. So it's really the ability to first understand yourself and the impact that your behavior has on others around you. It's the ability to be able to maneuver the kind of difficult, tricky social situations where you're dealing with people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different mindsets.
Mm.
And it's that, first of all, the ability to first understand yourself, what's going on inside here, your beliefs, the underlying beliefs that are driving your behavior. And then you're able to navigate all of those tricky social situations and
Mm.
understanding the impact that your behavior has on others around you.
So
So that's as far as social intelligence is. And the intercultural intelligence, it's more or less the same thing, but when you're dealing with people from different cultures and different backgrounds. So all of this, whatever I think intelligence it is, it really talks about starting with understanding yourself, understanding what are the beliefs that are working in here, literally the glasses that you are wearing that are coloring the way that you're viewing the world around you, and determining what you think is appropriate or inappropriate, how it colors your view of what is right, what is wrong, what is insulting or not. Once you have to first start with an honest look inside yourself to understand what's going on in here. Only then will you be able to anticipate other people's behavior, correctly interpret that behavior, and then adjust your own behavior to suit the situation that you're in order to get to the objective that you want. So
mm.
it all starts first with ourselves, and then we're able to understand what's going on around us.
Excellent. So it's great that you said that you have to start with yourself because some people might understand that social intelligence is have different personality. Deal with this person that way, deal with that person that way, being manipulative a little bit, but it's not. It's not a
It
set of skills, it's understanding yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it doesn't mean like being fake
Mm,
or wearing a different mask to get to something, an end in mind. It's not like being Machiavellian, that whatever you need to do to get to the end. That is not social intelligence. Fake is absolutely the ugliest thing that can be, and people catch it very quickly. We think that we can fool people and put on a different mask, but it doesn't work. People get it. What people really connect to is the authenticity. It's the
mm.
true, authentic self. And so being culturally or interculturally intelligent or even socially intelligent, it starts from an understanding yourself and the impact that the interpretation that you have of a certain situation will give it the adjectives that you use to interpret a certain behavior comes from your own filters, your own background, your own beliefs. And that will color the way that you actually see that situation, and therefore will determine how you react to it, how you act and react to it. And that has an impact on the entire situation and people around you. So being intelligent starts from, first of all, understanding, okay, what I'm interpreting here and the way what I'm believing to be seeing here, is that really what's happening? Or is one of my own unconscious biases or filters are coloring the situation? Could it be something else? Is there something else that I might be missing? And then being able to really adjust my behavior to suit that situation. So it's like the chameleon. In some cultures, the chameleon that changes the colors of its skin. In some cultures, I mean, in the Arab culture, it's seen as something that's negative. That's a bad thing. But it's not necessarily so, because the chameleon doesn't change its DNA. It remains always true to itself. What it changes, it's the externals only. It changes the externals, the behavior, to suit the situation that it's in. But it never changes its values. It never changes its core. Its DNA remains the same. It remains loyal to that.
Yeah. You touched on a very good point, which is not being fake. And a lot of people these days with social media, not I don't want to say being fake, but want to put a frontage that's not them, because everybody wants to be like, nobody was like, you don't want to call anybody and it's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm home. I'm doing nothing. You always have to be doing something or what are you doing with your life? Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, So social media have is what we want people to see us with, so a lot of times you deal with that. Is that normal, or is that like lack of social intelligence as well, like posting in social media stuff that you are not doing, or not who you are?
So you ask the question, is that normal, or is that, so if that normal or not normal, that's, yeah, who's to say?
Yeah,
What is normal? What does that even mean?
yeah,
And who decides what is normal and what is not? And so again, we're looking at it through different lenses and through different perceptions and through
yeah.
different filters
I meant
and
more like promoting a life that's not yours.
promoting a life that's not yours. Why is that happening?
Yeah.
It's fulfilling a specific need, and there's that saying that I really like. It's there's no such thing as a fact or reality. There's no such thing as that. It's all about perception.
Hmm.
So really, there is no impartial ground from which to reason or interpret reality. Mafi, there's nothing that's called this is real or this is a fact. It all depends on our perceptions. Everything's about perceptions. And what am I looking at? What are the filters that I'm looking through? What are my own beliefs that are coloring the way that I am observing what is happening and the meanings that I'm attaching to what I see? So even looking at something and thinking, okay, is this actually fun, or is this chaotic?
Hmm.
Is this organized, or is this dull and boring? There's nothing that there's really, it's very difficult to say that there's something called a fact or reality. It's all about perception, and social media plays on that, the perceptions. And it's all about living up to a certain perception or a certain thought or belief that you think you are trying to plant into other people's minds.
Okay. So for social, I know you train a lot of people for social intelligence and social media. Like a lot of times, like you said, you start by understanding yourself, but sometimes, promoting yourself could be a good thing. So what's the fine line between these two?
So, in order to promote yourself, is it a must that you have to promote an unauthentic side of you?
Mhm.
Is it possible to be successful and authentic at the same time? Is it possible to be successful and vulnerable at the same time?
Oh, yeah.
Is it possible to be totally myself and be successful and create very really true connections?
Yeah. So what you do, everything you do, I read this that it's about changing behavior and attitude. And you help a lot of businessmen, executive, diplomats, government officials, well, those are the ones that, have to put many layers, but government officials in profession in increasing and impacting the personal presence, shifting in attitude, behavior, stuff like that. But also regular, it's interesting for regular people because a lot of people listening will be like, okay, I want to be socially intelligent, the socially intelligent first, like, because you said also with the culture part. So the first thing is understanding yourself and then understanding where you are.
So it always starts with, first of all, understanding myself.
Hmm.
What's going on in here? Understanding the underlying beliefs, belief systems that are, underneath the surface, that are hidden, that are really the kind of the operating system, if you like.
Mm.
That can either be something that's empowering me, that's helping me, or blocking me from getting to what I want. That might be actually uh, coloring the way that I'm interpreting certain situations around me, but in a negative way, that it's not helping to, that's creating more barriers rather than, bridges or connections with others around me. So it starts with that really honest look inside to understand what are those filters, where are they coming from? What are those underlying beliefs? And are they the empowering ones? Are they helping me get closer to my objective? Or is it an actual block between my values and my objective?
Let me ask you something. When you say try to understand yourself, is it more of understanding who you really are at this point or who you want to be? I'm not talking about dreaming or something, it's like, but who is the version that you like to be from yourself to better yourself? Which one is it?
So if you wanted to tell me how do I get to, I don't know where in the States you are, but if you
New
told me
York.
I wanted to get to the state capital,
Yeah.
okay? So in order for
You mean
me to
January 6th?
uh, if you wanted to get
I don't want to
to
go there.
if you wanted to get to Disney,
Oh,
okay,
yeah. Let's make it light.
there.
It's two Arabs
That's a
talking here.
nicer place. If you wanted to get to Disney World right now, how am I going to give you a roadmap of how you're going to get there and how long it's going to take you and the route that you need to take if I don't know where you are right now?
Mm.
So in order to get to your desired self, the dream that you want to be, the aspired self, we need to first know where am I right now so that I know what the gap is and what I need, the steps that I need to do to take to get from where I am now to where I want to be. So
Mm.
there are 2 points that you need to first understand. I need to understand where am I going? What is it that I want? What does that look like? And really, really have a very, very, very clear and specific image of where it is that I want to go. Why is it that I want to go there? And then I need to understand very clearly where am I now in order to get the clear steps of how to fill that gap.
Yeah, I read before like mindset is one of the things that I really like to know about, and it's always when you set goals, they have to be clear, specific, and measurable. So you can know exactly. And I like what you say, like try to understand where you are right now, and then where you want to go. So that's kind of like the roadmap to get there. So that social intelligence will help you navigate your way through it, with your work, colleagues, at home, especially
And
like here where they're, you know, I mean, I don't know if it's popular in the Middle East as much, but there's a lot of people dating from different cultures or married from different cultures, and you have to really have an effort to uh to understand that before you get in anything, you know. So that's another thing is social intelligence, how to deal with the family of your spouse, I guess, right?
There's so many stories around that. So many stories around that. It's very funny because my book, When in the Arab World, I meant it for the business world, to help them, a guide to help them how to do business with Arab culture. But when I've given talks, I've had people from the audience come to me and they'd say, "You saved my marriage. I'm married to a Lebanese, and now I finally understand why he does this. And now I finally understand why my in-laws do that." So that, yeah, that's a whole story over there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. So when you like work with somebody to change their personality and stuff like that, and you especially or
We
specifically,
don't change personality.
not personality, sorry.
Behavior. We're
I know
shifting
with you, I
behavior.
have to be very careful with words. Usually, I'm not.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Because you don't change the personality.
Yeah. Uh,
You, you
but that
change
was
you
yeah, that
change
was gonna be my
behavior.
yeah, the behavior. But that was my question. And when you deal with somebody, especially like politician, who
Mhm.
pretend they want to change their behavior, but they're really changing the personality to win election or do whatever, you know.
They're
And
changing the perception, probably.
yeah, something like that. You know, they can pretend that even that they believe in something that they don't, you know. When you see stuff like that, or in the other side, if somebody, you know, messed up, you know, and the society would not forgive them or give them either for culture, you know, problems. Like let's say, you know, cancel culture, somebody got canceled, or woke, somebody said something, or Me Too, or any of these things. Now you have somebody, usually when something like that happen, you know, there's two options. Either you disappear completely or you try to make a comeback. It depends what you do, you know. If you're in show business or something, eventually you want to try to come back. If you're politics, maybe one day, you know. But when people try to do that, you know, when they try to come back from a negative look, no matter what they try to change themselves, even if they did change, you know, now they have to convince the world to forgive them and change, you know. So from social intelligence, you know, part, like how do you deal with people still judging you even though you did change for a while until you've been forgiven, I guess. And what's your thoughts in general on cancel culture, walk, and stuff like that?
Okay, so there's a lot to talk about in that question. So first of
Yeah,
all,
I have a lot of issues, you could tell, right?
no, 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 no.
Complicated.
Uh, um, so let me try to answer what I think the question is here. Uh, Reputation is built on constant, consistent behavior.
Mm.
Okay, so it's not one thing that's going to happen that's going to build you a very good reputation, or it might not be one thing that's going to break that reputation. It's what you do on a constant, consistent manner, your
But sometimes,
behavior.
especially in politics, they will come one clip and say, "Oh, he said that," and because he's a public figure or she's a public figure, most likely she did it more in private, you know?
Now, so we're getting into the effect of the media and the social media and mass media and fake news and hidden agendas and all of that. And that's an entire world that maybe somebody who specializes in reputation management and image consulting
Yeah.
might be able to answer more, or somebody specializing in PR might be able to answer more. My focus is on the individual. So I would be able to work with that particular person who has maybe gone through such a trauma of injustice, and work with that person to try to um, uh, understand what's going on inside. What are the thoughts and feelings and the meaning that he's giving that situation, the underlying beliefs, and if there's a way that we can turn them around so that it becomes an empowering thing. So if seeing that incident as I'm being judged, I'm being rejected, I'm being canceled, and maybe turn it around to see, is there any silver lining anywhere there? Is it something that is possibly actually helping me to really be my true authentic self? Is it something that's actually teaching me courage and vulnerability to really show my true colors and shed all of those masks that I had before? Possibly. Yeah, we're doing a lot of hypothetical scenarios here. And with that, that will shift the mindset and therefore the emotions of that person, and therefore it will also affect the behavior, because you've got a thought is going to trigger an emotion, and then the emotion is going to cause you to take an action. So emotion creates motion. And so if you want to change an action, you need to change how you feel. And if you want to change how you feel, then you need to change the thought in your mind, what you're thinking. And so it's like that loop. So if you become aware of what is the thought that I'm thinking that is causing me to feel that way, and when I'm thinking and feeling that way, I end up doing this kind of behavior. And then when I do this kind of behavior, it kind of feeds back into and strengthens that thought and that emotion, and I fall into that loop. And when I do that, how that impacts others around me and how they feel, and then what they think of me, and then how they behave towards me, which then feeds that loop again. And it's like this kind of thing that's going
Like
on
for the
and on.
listeners, like kind of number eight.
Like a number eight, like
Yeah.
an infinity number eight,
Yeah.
exactly.
We have more listeners usually than watching the video. But so last question before we jump to the book. How'd you get into this? Like what made you be like, oh, like did you see like a lot of problems and like, you know what? Somebody got to fix this. Like how'd you get into this?
So it's I think like a lot of people who work in these kinds of fields, I started out, I was always fascinated. I studied media and communication. So I'm very interested in communications. But I kind of was also very fascinated with behavior, why people do the things that they do. And why is it that some people are so kind of charismatic? I didn't know what the title was, how to describe them, but I could feel that there was something very different about some people. They would walk into a room and they would command respect. They'd sit in a meeting and everybody would listen and wants to listen to them. It's not because he was the boss or the most educated, because in most cases they're not. They're not the boss or they're not the most educated in the room. Yet they command that kind of respect and connection, and people want to listen to them. And I started to observe, and I became very curious about it. And what is it that makes these people stand out? And why is it that people do the things that they do? And why do we fall into certain patterns and we keep continuing the same thing over and over again? And so I was fascinated by that, and I started to look into that and attend, any course I could find, read any book I could find. And it started when I delved deeper into it, it was because I wanted to understand, why is it that I keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again? Why is it that I'm not learning? What's the pattern? How do I break this pattern? And where is it coming from? And so I started to learn it more because I wanted to kind of heal myself. And I started to see the impact that would have around other people, especially in the business world, where it's a kind of a rough and tough environment, and especially people are just about starting to talk about, it's okay for you to be more vulnerable and it's okay to be more human and all of that. Um, that's still happening, yani, gradually.
Mm.
But to understand how, Tony Robbins says success is 80% psychology. And it's not about your technical abilities. It's not about the degrees that you have. None of that matters. That is about 20%. But successful people, and whatever you decide to success to look like. I mean, for me, success could be being able to really raise a very functional and balanced family life. That's a huge success.
Yeah, yeah.
The biggest challenge ever. While juggling other things and maintaining a career of and having impact on people around you. So whatever success looks like for you, it's all about the psychology of it. It's about how you think, and then how you feel, and then how that impacts your behavior. But that awareness of it and understanding what are the filters, the unconscious biases, and the underlying beliefs that are playing into all of this.
A lot of times with people with charisma or popular people, like, you mentioned, it's you walk in. I read before in debates, not like debates as a actual debate, but in like presidential debate or stuff like that, or it's the person that have more charisma, not the person that says the most correct answers or stuff like that. I mean, in a debate competition, obviously, is judged by that. But when you're debating for people to vote for you or stuff like that, especially politicians and stuff like that, they it's not about the fact, like a lot of them, we see Trump over and over saying how many lies, but he have this charisma, he's funny, he have this stuff, so it brings people to it. But can you teach, like from your studies, can you teach, or can somebody become, like, can somebody had charisma or become popular, or is it just kind of like born, not made?
So charisma, I think, is something that you're born with. You have it or you don't.
Yeah,
But
I do
having
have it.
yes, clearly. But having said that, there is a certain amount which can be taught. And you see it with a lot of people. So especially certain politicians, where when you create a lot more self-awareness, and you really connect and you use all the tools that you have. For example, the tools that you have here in your voice box. So when you learn to use your voice properly, with using the intonation, using the pace, the tone of voice, how to use silence even. When you learn how to use your body language and your facial expressions, all of that together with the right words, with the right gestures, and a smile, just a smile alone, how that can break so many barriers and create so many connections. Yes, you can kind of move it up that way a little bit. I don't know if the person can completely be, I mean, non-charismatic and then become charismatic, but they can definitely become more towards that and
Mm.
easier to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when you said when you just said about, the smile and stuff like that. I like how big of impact that is. I remember during pandemic when COVID happened, everybody was wearing masks. The doctors were afraid that the newborn babies haven't seen any smiles and any stuff like that. And even the patients that didn't know, they would put a picture of themselves, of the doctor smiling here, and they would show them. And that shows that little things can make a difference. Even when you go in a meeting, when you go and stuff, these things, does have a big effect. Obviously the way you talk, the way you address people, but some people, walk in a room, like you said, and you can feel, their presence. You can feel that they are in charge, even if they're not in charge. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, let's talk about your book, because that's another very interesting thing. When in the Arab World, an insider guide to living and working with Arab culture. First, why did you, what inspired you to write this book? And, do you have any personal, experiences that kind of influences, like, people need to understand how to, you know, yeah, you live, just to be clear, you live in the Middle East. You lived in Kuwait, right? And you lived in Amman, Jordan.
Did.
Yeah,
So I was born in Amman, Jordan, and I grew up in Kuwait.
yeah.
My dad was working there for Getty Oil Company, actually in Kuwait. And then, but we left Kuwait and moved back to Amman before the Gulf War. And then I lived in the US for a couple of years. I did my master's degree in Boston at Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, and then moved back to Amman and worked. Well, I stayed a short stint in London, but mostly in Amman, traveling for work, but living here. So from my work experience and when I was the journalist and working with CNN during the first Gulf War and the 18 years with the Foreign Office and the British, um, it was a kind of an everyday occurrence to see all of those, we think we're speaking the same language, we think
Mhm.
we're saying the same things, but in reality,
You're talking about Western and Eastern cultures.
everything,
Yeah,
everything. I mean, not just the Eastern, Western, but for example, we can say something like, I trust you.
yeah,
Trust you, right? Hatem, I trust you. That's
yeah,
pretty simple. What else can it mean, right? But I trust you can mean I trust you will do the honorable thing.
yeah,
Yeah. Or I trust you could mean I trust you will do the right thing. Honorable and right are very different.
yeah. Because right
Or
is your opinion. Yeah,
I trust you could mean I trust you will protect me. So I trusted you, but you betrayed me. What do you mean I betrayed you? I did the right thing. Yes, but you didn't protect me.
yeah,
So we are saying words that we think have universal meanings and are pretty clear and simple, but in reality, what I mean by that word and what you hear in that word are completely different, but we're not aware of those differences.
mm,
And I could see that happening on a daily basis in my work. While talking to an American journalist or while talking to somebody from any other country, any other culture. Uh, and so many crises or problems could have been completely avoided and resolved with just a little bit more of that understanding and the awareness that there might be a difference in the meaning of the words that we're using,
yeah,
right? Because there's not even to fix something, you need to first know that it's broken, right? But if you don't really have an awareness that there is a different meaning to this word, you're just continuing and the clashes happen and the misunderstandings happen.
yeah.
And so I was giving when I left the embassy and set up my own business just about 10 years ago, I was giving a talk at a big conference, and then Alistair Campbell, who used to be the head of communications for Tony Blair for 10 years, was actually another speaker at the event, and he heard me speak and said he really liked what I was saying, and he said, "There's a book in there." And that's where the seed was planted. So
Mm,
and I thought, a book? I've never written a book. I don't know where to start or what to do about it. And so he kind of encouraged me a little bit and planted the seed, and I started to work on it. The intention was to give a really real and authentic guide, practical guide. So I'm not a sociologist, I'm not a culturalist, I'm not somebody who is, this is not an academic study. This is a very practical guide for people who are non-Arabs who want to understand how to maneuver and work with Arab culture. So it's full of very practical details.
mm,
And before I continue, go any further, I need to just explain one thing. Arab, what does that mean? Of course, the Arab world is not one big lump. There are 22 independent countries. Each one has its own history. Each one has its own traditions. So it's like, I would say Europe is one and the same, and that's not true. However, having said that, there is a thread of commonalities that ties all the Arab world together. And that thread of commonalities is based in two things: the Islamic tradition, the Islamic culture, and the Bedouin tradition as well, the Bedouin culture. Even though not all Arabs are Muslim, of course, the majority of Muslims are not Arab, and not all Arabs are Muslim. Depending on which sources you look at, about 13% are Arab Christians. And Christianity did not come to the Arab world with the Crusades. Jesus Christ was born here. Christianity started from here.
Mhm.
And so this thread of commonalities ties us all together. So when we look at what are the main motivators of behavior in Arab culture, it is to safeguard my honor and avoid shame. So that is the same. It's common across all the Arab world with differing levels of it. And it's reflected in how open socially it is. So if it's where some countries are more socially conservative and where are less or more, more open. But that the main motivator of behavior is safeguarding my honor and avoiding shame. That is kind of the same across the Arab world. So understanding it from the perspective of what is the main motivator of behavior puts a completely different twist to it. So my aim was not to set a whole set of
To-do list. This is what you do when you go there.
that's so useless.
Yeah,
Yani,
I know.
list of do's and don'ts is so sterile and it's so useless because no two situations are alike. No two situations are alike. And I didn't want any stereotypes. I didn't want to remove a certain set of stereotypes and replace them with another set of stereotypes. That's also not helpful at all. So even though we're talking about cultures, we always need to remember that we don't deal with cultures, we deal with people. People. And every person has to be treated and respected as an individual. And we all have our own, what we call self-cultures, which we create as a result of our own experiences.
Yeah,
So
that's one of the things I was gonna ask you specific, because this is one of the things that I try to explain a lot here is like you said, the culture is based on two main things, the Bedouin and Islamic culture. Is like you have to understand it's their personal understanding of Islam. It's not Islam, it's not the culture, it's their personal understanding. And I'm glad that you just mentioned that because that's major. It's like, yeah, this is what it says, but my understanding is different than your understanding.
absolutely, absolutely. So it's not about the religion. So I'm talking about the Islamic
Cultures.
traditions
Yeah, yeah,
as a culture,
yeah,
because there's so many different variations of the religion and the
yeah.
understanding of the religion across the Islamic world. And that's not what we're talking about
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. And that's the understand. Two things quickly to your point. It's funny because we both grew up in Kuwait and born in Kuwait. I remember when I don't know if you remember that when the Gulf War happened and the US sent troops, there were kind of like a guide similar to your book is tell them, like there's things you cannot put your feet. Like for example, if I sit with you and you sit in the office in my office and I put my feet that's normal. But in the Arabic world, if I put my feet while you're standing, that's not that's disrespectful. There was set of stuff like that. So there was always a need because I think that's really was the first time that cultures kind of like work too close together, work it together in a way in the modern world at least. And I wanted to ask you, when you say working, living and working with the Arab culture, is that specifically when, foreigners come to the Arab cultures, or when the Arab cultures are part of the foreign culture? Like, let's say here in the United States, in New York, like say there's There's I don't know if you know, there's Steinoid, there's Chinatown, there's Steinoid, there's communities there. Is that guide also for those dealing with within the country, or is it specific about people visiting the Middle East?
So the book is specifically for people who are working with in the Middle East, in
Okay.
the Arab world. Why? Because when you move, yani, as an Arab, if you move to the US, the you adapt to the culture of the country that you are in. You live by the laws and the traditions of the country that
Yep.
you are in. And it's the same thing when you go, if as an American, you go to the UK, in the same way you are going to adapt to the culture, the local traditions, and the local laws.
Yeah.
So understanding what's happening and why things are done the way that they are. I
Yeah.
just want to go back to a point that you just talked about when the guide of how it's disrespectful that
Yeah.
and that you should not put up your feet or something. So this is when a list of do's and don'ts becomes completely useless, because they will remember. I mean, every foreigner, I think, has read this somewhere that you shouldn't show the sole of your shoe to some in the face of somebody. And so they don't. But they don't really understand why that is wrong
Hmm.
and what is the impact of that behavior on the other person. And so they go ahead and might shout at the person or shame that other person in front of his peers. So they didn't understand that the reason why you should not put your foot up in the face of somebody, it's because it is disrespectful to their honor. It's not the honorable thing to do,
Yeah.
because the bottom of their shoe is on the street and this is their face, and saving face is critical. It's the key concept in any honor-based culture. So the Arab culture is not the only honor-based culture, right?
There's a lot,
So
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot
Japanese.
of others as well, and it's the same thing. So once you understand that really the motivator of behavior and the reason why this is wrong, it's because the main thing is to safeguard their honor and avoid shame. Then you would start to think, okay, so when I am giving feedback or when I'm negotiating, I need to do it in a different way because I need to give them a safe, a face-saving way out. If I don't do that, then I am dishonoring them and shaming them, and the relationship is dead, and then you can't do business in that part of the world.
I,
So that's the understanding the motivators.
I think these two motivators are, spot on. And I think a lot of people, if they understand them, and it does have, it have a lot to do. I think not only with the Arab culture, like I remember I was in Indonesia one time, and I was going to like visit something secret, and you have to wear like you can't wear shorts, like you have to cover, you have
Right.
to wear like uh something like a towel or whatever, to cover. And a lot of people are like, well, I was like, this is the culture. It's a sign of respect, so you have to, you don't have to agree with it. You decided. It's like if you drink here in the United States, you have to be 21. In Europe, it's 18. It's different. Everybody have laws of cultures of stuff like that. So, what can you highlight some of like, cultural behaviors or stuff that misunderstood by Westerns in the Arab world in general? Like the top thing is like you think that people misunderstand about the Arab culture in general when visiting.
So there are quite a few there. So let me put that. So if the main motivator of behavior in the Arab culture is to safeguard my honor and avoid shame, what do you think in countries like the North America, Western Europe? The main motivator of behavior there in those cultures is right versus wrong, innocence versus guilt. So it's doing whatever I need to do to be right, to be innocent, and avoid being guilty, avoid being wrong. So they're brought up to do the right thing. And who determines whether I have done something right or wrong? Who determines whether I'm guilty or not? It's the law. It's the legal system, right? So in the Arab culture, it's safeguard my honor and avoid shame. But who determines whether I've acted in an honorable or shameful way? Who?
The culture, not the
The
people.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, my people.
Yeah.
My people determine. It's not the law that's going to determine. It's the people that are. So that's why people and connections become very, very important in an honor-based culture. Everything is based on relationships. Reputation is key in an honor-based culture. What people say about me, what the neighbors think become very, very important, right?
Absolutely. I see so many people that I know that they would dress certain way at home and they come here dress other way. It's all about the people around them. They're the same person, you know?
Yeah, but that is the honor-based culture. And and here it's all about relationships. And here in an honor-based culture, I don't represent only myself. I represent everybody I carry the name of. You know how we say our names in the Arab culture, it's my name followed by my father's name, followed by his father's name, followed by the family name.
Mm.
So it tells a name in the Arab culture tells an entire story. It tells where you fit in that society. It tells which part of the country you come from. It tells us if you're a Christian or a Muslim family. It tells in some cases, it actually you can tell political affiliations just by a name.
Yeah.
So when somebody from Northern America comes and they say their middle name is just a name that their parents picked for them at birth for no apparent reason, we think that's strange. It doesn't tell a story. It doesn't tell me anything about you. So this is one aspect of it. One of the things that creates a lot of kind of tension is this concept of fate and faith and time. What's one of the most common word that you would hear said whenever anyone comes to the Arab world? What's something that we say very, very commonly?
When somebody visits,
Or any the word that you hear most often anywhere across the Arab world.
I don't know. What is it? Uh,
Inshallah.
oh yeah, yeah. God willing. Inshallah.
Inshallah literally
Yeah.
means God willing. But when I was doing the research for the book, actually, I thought we had invented the term. It turns out we didn't. It turns out that actually the Brits in the 1800s used a Latin term, Dio volente, which literally translated means God willing. And they would sign their letters with this term saying, God willing, I will do whatever I said I would do in that letter.
Oh
And so
wow.
we didn't invent it, see? We didn't. So inshallah it comes from, but where does that come from? It comes from the strong belief, or perhaps it's a perception, that I am not in charge of my destiny, that I will work hard, I will do whatever I need to do, but at the end of the day, I am not in control of my circumstances. I am not control of everything. It is up to a power that is far greater than me. Call it luck, call it the universe, call it Allah, call it God. It is outside of my control.
Mm.
In the innocence guilt worldview, the belief there, or perhaps it's just a perception, is that I am master of my destiny. I am captain of my ship. I do this is what happens. It's a cause and effect. Work hard, you shall succeed. We forecast the weather, we do financial forecasts, we are in control. And so it's a different way of looking at it.
Mm.
This belief, this perception also affects how we plan. So it's very easy if you would ask, so you've been living in the US for a long time, so you've taken up a bit of their culture and the way that they do things. So how, especially before COVID, how long in advance would you plan for a trip, a vacation? How long in advance would you actually book your tickets,
Yeah, yeah.
the hotel, and pay for everything? A minimum of 7, 8 months, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I know what you're going with this. Yeah, it's
Okay,
so funny.
at
Yeah,
least 7 or 8
yeah,
months. Sell that to an Arab, and they think you're nuts.
yeah,
And no, first of all, how do I know that in 7 months from now I would actually feel like going to that vacation?
yeah,
How do I know who in my family gave birth, who in my family died, what's going to happen? I don't know if there's going to be a war next door. So we don't plan. So we tend to leave things to the last minute, and it becomes more, it's the concept, or the thought of planning so much ahead and actually paying money and booking things. It's tempting fate.
hmm,
And that becomes, you're not playing God. Do you plan and see what happens? And so one of the funny things that used to happen is in every embassy, and that's the system in every embassy and in some of the big corporations as well, is that they have a system on their computer where staff are required at the beginning of the year to log on when they plan to take their leave for that entire year.
yeah,
So we were asked in January to log with exact precise dates of when you're planning to take your leave, vacations throughout the year. Can you imagine the kind of stress that caused?
yeah, yeah,
It was very funny because for example, when I was in the British embassy, and that's the same in every embassy. And so the British, the ambassador and the head of management would send out the email, and all the UK staff would log in their leaves, and it was fine. And none of the Arab local staff would do that. And they would send another reminder email, and nobody would do it. And they wouldn't understand and know what is so difficult about you deciding when you're going to take leave. And then we had to sit and explain that. It cannot happen. It cannot
yeah,
happen, okay? Because it's asking too much. And then we worked out a way that so this is when understanding the real reasons behind something, the story behind it, will help you find a solution to navigate the problem. And so what we were able to have a conversation and say, okay, so what is the purpose of that rule? The purpose of that rule is to ensure that the workflow is not interrupted and that key people in the same department don't take a leave at the same time. Okay, so we told them, okay, so would you accept that if we respect those two principles, that the workflow is not affected and the key people in the department do not leave at the same time, would you give us the flexibility and allow us to log in our leave 3 weeks in advance? And there was panic. But then they said, okay, they're willing to try it. And they tried it out and it worked out.
yeah,
It worked. So the principle behind the law was respected. The principle behind the rule was respected. And the cultural norm and way of doing things was also respected. And it worked for everybody.
yeah. You like the Arab culture is very interesting because I think it's one of the main cultures that's very misunderstood because most people already have a judgment before they even, know anything about it, and this is something not only in this, but in any situation. It used to be you do your research and then you make up your mind. Now, these days, you make up your mind first and then you look for research that's going to back it up and you're going to find it because there's
Exactly.
always somebody who's going to do something. So the Arab culture is a hot topic. And sometimes, yes, they are right about certain things, but not everything. But there's so many things that they say about the culture. It's very aggressive. It's bloody. It's there's they don't understand, like you said, it's 22 countries. It's big, big. And within the country, there's so many cultures within each city. And so when you try to say it's actually a very hospitable culture, there's a lot of good things. Of course, there's a lot of, bad things, not from the culture, but from the people. But also it's very misunderstood. So when people know that you Arab, they're like, oh my God, you like really? Like what's what's going on? Can you tell me why it's always violent? So I always say, there's a lot of history. Every single war in the world that ever happened since the beginning of Earth happened there. So there's a lot of things, but there's a lot of warmth. So one of the things that, how do you address, I don't know if you address that in your book, but also, what's your general thought about that, about the Arabic culture and it being misunderstood? And the other thing is like, how do you deal with people coming to the Arabic world too scared or like, woman is like, oh my God, I have to be covered all over, and stuff like that. I remember even like certain, um, first, I think Michelle Obama was the first one, didn't know covered. Well, she went to Saudi Arabia, there wasn't covered, and it was okay. Nothing happens. Uh, so what's your thoughts on that when people misunderstanding to that level?
Ignorance
Yeah,
is our biggest enemy across the world. Ignorance, ignorance, ignorance.
yeah,
That's it. When people make judgments based on ignorance, um, there are a lot of things, not a lot, a number of things that you said in that statement that I kind of don't agree with.
yeah,
So, first of all, that this part of the world has seen such huge changes, and Europe went through hundreds of years of a gradual evolution. Went through different revolutions and evolutions to actually get to where it is.
yeah,
In the Arab world, we haven't had that luxury of going through that. It's jumps and leaps. And with those jumps and leaps come various, problems as well. But the advancements that have been made, the kind of the power that the people have, that in the intelligence, the creativity,
the
the
warmth.
abilities, the warmth, the hospitality, the humanity is unparalleled.
Yeah,
Of course, there is room for development. If there wasn't, we would be ruling the world right now,
yeah,
right? Of course. Hayat, the ruler of the world, I don't think they're doing pretty well at all. And it's funny. Seriously, we look from this side of the world and we look at what's happening in the US and we wonder, and how is it that we are seen as violent when you have never ever heard of a story of somebody walks in with a shotgun and kills students in a school? Never. You never heard. I was just reading about it in the UK. A 17-year-old goes with a knife and kills
yeah,
7-year-olds in a dance class. I've never heard of it anywhere across the 20 to Arab countries. So violence? I wonder.
yeah. Well, so you agree with me? Which part you disagree with me about this?
So there you just said there were a lot of bad things. So I would say I wouldn't call it there's a lot of bad things. I would just say there's room for improvement.
Yeah, yeah. But I like to look like at it as with like lenses from the outside. Even here, there is not one place. First of all, I always say that the whole world have blood in their hands.
Yeah,
There's nobody they can go from the beginning of history to now that haven't doesn't have blood in their hands. And there is bad things in every culture, but the
absolutely.
focus lenses on this is a lot. And this is what I said. Like it's very complicated area. All the major religion came from there. Christianity, Judaism, and Islam came from there.
Yeah.
Every single war happened from even before the pharaohs. Like it's just like every war happened in that area. There's so much.
Yes,
But and yet,
exactly.
like you said, Europe had a time to breathe. We never like you don't get 1 year without like
Ex-
one
Yes.
war or something.
Yeah. There's so there's a part in the book, the last chapter in the book in the book I do a lot of interviews with people from different countries from all over the world, from Japan, China, the US, different parts in Europe. who have worked in different countries in the Arab world and talk about their perspective and their experiences. And the aim in the book is I wanted to make it very practical, and I did not want to sugarcoat anything. So I was trying to be as authentic as possible. And so, of course, that was quite a challenge. It wasn't easy because if you understand the Arab culture, we don't like to air our dirty laundry, so to speak. So, and I was actually worried about being seen by my people as somebody who is showing the negative part, doing them a disservice. And I didn't want that. My whole aim was to really be true and authentic, but in order to help build bridges, to help people understand and connect. And sugarcoating doesn't help at all.
Absolutely.
So I did that through a lot of interviews with a lot of people. And one of the questions that I would ask at the end of each interview was, now that you know what you know, having yourself experienced life here and working in the Arab culture, what did you wish that you knew when you first came? So the difference between the perception of before coming and experiencing it for yourself, and then the end result after you experienced it for yourself. And the stories, they're more or less all the same. I wish I knew how similar we are, how many similarities we have. That this place has so many, the warmth of the people, the generosity of the people, that once you actually build a relationship, it takes a while to build a relationship, but once you do, it's for life.
Yeah. That's one thing about the Arab culture, you're right, is like it stays for life. They're really, really loyal.
Absolutely. And in many cases, a business person might take a decision that might be bad for the business in order to save a relationship.
Yeah.
And
It's the perception that from the outside, especially the media, I remember like there will be like interviews like from say Lebanon or Syria or Jordan or Egypt, whatever, and there's like CNN reporter wearing like the arm guard thing and like, to save and the helmet and you see children playing behind them. It's like it's not dangerous. It's like you're trying to give that image like, oh my God, I'm in the middle of a war zone. No, you're not. Um, but yeah, so let's get the last couple of questions. YARNU, that's your company. What does it mean, first of all? And how can why should people go to your website and to search for what can you provide for them if they go to your website?
Okay.
But what does YARNU means first?
YARNU
YARNU.
is an Arabic word that actually means to aspire to look towards something with calm and serenity. And it also happens to be the kind of the present participle of my name. So Rana YARNU, if you know Arabic grammar.
Nice.
But the meaning is to aspire to something, to look towards something with calm and serenity. And everything I do is about shifting behavior, mindset, and attitude. I work with businesses and with individuals on changing the culture, the corporate culture, so organizational culture, but also changing the mindset and behavior of the executives. And if you're working in an intercultural environment as well, so I work with a lot of embassies as well, so it's the intercultural agility. Why would you come to me? Because if you want to change behavior, attitude in a very bespoke way. So I'm certified to use a number of tools. Culture Scope is one of them, the DISC facilitator, the ICI, the Intercultural Intelligence and Agility. So I'm certified to use a lot of tools, and I'm also a professional coach, business coach. So to help you to work through your mindset, to work through your beliefs, your thoughts, and to shift that behavior to get you to where you want to be.
And you work with
your organization or the individual.
and you work with any culture, correct?
Oh
Western,
yeah.
Eastern, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I travel wherever my client
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Is there a second book coming?
Oh, that's funny because somewhere in my psyche there is a second book because when I was actually when I talk about my book When in the Arab World, I always refer to it as my first book. So I
Yeah.
thought that's interesting. There's that. So there's something somewhere there in my psyche. I still not
You know,
figured
it's funny, yeah, when I read that there is a joke where it's like somebody was saying, you know, the First World War is like back then in the movie, and then tell them you don't call it the First World War until there's a Second World War, you know. So, but
exactly.
I mean, like you can do
That's
I
true.
think you can do a book about the opposite when you know, when you're Arab and you go to you know, the other culture. So, you
Yeah.
know, I'm sure. But emotional intelligence is so important in so many ways, you know,
Mhm.
in everyday job, in happiness in a family, when you understand a lot of things, when you understand yourself, like you said, and the other people, you know, it's going to help you just reach what we all want to reach, be happy, and, you know, and hopefully good. It was great to have you. Thank you so much for I am already know that there's gonna be a part two of having you here again, you know,
Oh,
and
I
we'll talk
really
more about it
enjoyed
because
this.
the culture and the book and also the emotional intelligence is very, very interesting. But we'd love to have you again soon. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you
us, and
so
I'll
much.
have the link to your website on the description of the show.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I really, really enjoyed this chat.
It was amazing. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.